Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we will discuss electronic parking brakes on cars and why they work so well. And of course I'm going to reveal to you their greatest flaw. But before I reveal the greatest flaw, we are going to take a look on how the electronic parking brake works and why it's such a cool design and why it is reliable. So I'm gonna jump over to the interwebs here. So you can see here on this side, knowyourparts.com, they have a page where the parking brakes are gone through, their function and how to replace the caliper and parking brake system and everything. But I'm going to use these images to illustrate. You have a normal caliper, or fairly normal caliper. You have a motor and gearbox assembly that is spinning a threaded rod that sits between or through the caliper and into the gearbox. And on this threaded rod there is what I call a push nut that sits inside of the piston. And when 12 volts is applied to the leads going to the motor, the threaded rod spins, the push nut moves outwards or inwards depending on if it's going to release or apply the parking brake. So here we have my piston, and the push nut sits in here and pushes the piston just slightly outward to engage the parking brake, which pushes the the pads onto the rotors, and braking is applied. The parking brake is applied. And if you want to go into much more detail on how this works, I will link below this guy RayBestos Brakes video on when he takes the complete thing apart. So I'm not going to do that for you. He does a great job doing that, explaining everything, and he is expressing concern about this threaded rod going through the caliper, because that is adding 1 point of leak, because there's another seal that's not on a car that has shoe and drum parking brakes. But yeah, it's always a trade-off. But he does a really good job on explaining everything. So go ahead and watch his video if you want to see everything in detail. I will now go back to this page. Here you can see how it spins, and there's like needle bearings up here to keep everything moving freely and everything. Yeah, so it's a cool design. But let's go over to the bench here where I will demonstrate the flaw of the electronic parking brake. So I had an issue with my Volvo S80 that presented itself with the wheels moved freely when I had the car in the air, but when I went for a drive, the back wheels would get hot while the fronts would stay cool in a situation where I did not really apply the brakes. Of course, if I applied the brakes, they all went hot, which is normal. But I didn't really like how the back wheels got hot without even that much of braking. So I thought, okay, let's just take it all apart, replace the piston and the seals, and see if I can find anything that's rusted or so. But the piston, as you can see here, it's a little bit worn here, but it's not rusted anything. Nothing was looking as bad as old calipers usually look. But what I did find was, let me show you this. This is a new square cut seal. You can see it's square. And here you can see the two seals coming out of my car. They are not square. They are deformed, they are skewed to one side. Here it is compared to the new. It's ever so slightly, but it is noticeable. What happens, or my theory, which I'm pretty sure is correct, is, or this is not theory, this is fact, but when you apply your brakes normally with your pedal, the piston moves slightly outward. This seal sits between the caliper and the piston, and it's in a groove in the caliper, so it will not move. But when the piston is moved outward by you applying the brakes, this seal deforms. And when you release the brakes, the seal wants to return to its normal state, hence pulling or pushing the piston back inside the caliper and releasing your brakes completely. Without this deformation and return to its normal state, this piston would not retract properly and your brakes will be slightly dragging. So here is my theory. When you have a car with electronic parking brake and you apply the parking brake every day overnight, it's almost like the parking brake is applied 24/7 to many cars. That is, from this seal's point of view, the same as you applying the brakes, sitting inside of the car pushing the brake pedal all the time. So this seal is actually in its deformed state almost its entire time. And I mean, it's rubber. After the years and years, it will conform to this deformed state. And as you can see, it has stayed in that state here. And these seals were not retracting this caliper fast or enough or far enough for the brakes to release properly. That's my theory. And after I've replaced the seals and the pistons, the brakes work perfectly fine. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the greatest flaw of the electronic parking brake. So yeah, just being me, I'm not really applying my electronic parking brake in the same manner I did before. I do it every now and then, but I don't leave it engaged or applied overnight, even though my car is too old to have this issue again, I think. But you never know. I kind of, yeah, that's how I am. So I hope you enjoyed this video where I discuss the good and bad side of the electronic parking brake. And do check RayBestos Brakes video, which I've linked below. He does a really good job on explaining everything. So I hope you've learned something today, and thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.